Hello and welcome back to my channel. Jacob Payton here, and today I'm going to be talking about JG Faherty's Hellrider, which has this awesome cover right here of this like demon thing on a motorcycle, which I do very enjoy. It's giving me Ghost Rider vibes, which I love Ghost Rider, so I'm right there with it. Although definitely way more demonic than Ghost Rider. It says, Eddie Ryder was a former biker gang member trying to straighten out his life when the rest of the Hellriders decide he had to pay for ratting out their president. They burned his garage down with him inside it, not realizing they unleashed Eddie's twisted psychotic ghost on the town of Hell Creek. Now Eddie has vowed revenge against all the people who ever wronged him. His power grows with each diabolical murder he commits until the whole town is at the mercy of his insanity. The only person who stands in his way is his younger brother Carson. But by the time he realizes the truth, it might be too late to stop the mayhem and put Eddie back in his graves before Hell Creek burns to the ground. So yeah, I love stories of revenge. I've talked about that on this channel. One of my favorite books is The Count of Monte Cristo, which to me is like the perfect revenge story. If you haven't read that, I highly recommend it. Alexander Dumas wrote it. It's a classic. Same guy that wrote The Three Musketeers. You really can't go wrong with reading that book. Now, this is another great story of revenge. I liked it a lot. I think it also took a really interesting look at ghosts, which I kind of enjoyed because, right, Eddie dies. That's how the book starts. Eddie is dead, and he kind of comes back as a ghost because he has unfinished business, right? His mom's sick. His brother's not doing so great. You know, he provided money and he was looking out for them essentially. It's one of the reasons he ratted. So he has all this unfinished business, and plus, like, he's angry, right? You know, he's in a motorcycle club. Doesn't make any bones about the fact that he has anger issues. So the fact that they do this to him really pisses him off. And when he comes back, you know, that's one of the things he wants to do is get even. So a lot of the book is him kind of figuring out how to harness his otherworldly powers. A lot of this comes in the form of him possessing people. And we do get a lot of really good revenge. But I think it's also very interesting to see that the more he carries out his revenge plan, the more he himself changes. And what I mean by that is, whereas he was at first able to use his anger as a power source, his anger then starts to control him, and he starts to hurt even the people that he has stuck around to protect. In the body of Carson, his brother, he almost sexually assaults his brother's girlfriend because, like, he just can't control his urges. It's him being dead is basically, when he's in a body, he gives into almost every impulse, whether it's anger or violence or lust, and it puts him in some very precarious position. And what I mean by that is the fact that, we start off rooting for Eddie. We want to see him get revenge on his murderers, but as the book goes on, we're going to see him do some pretty, really messed up stuff. Because he almost gets addicted to the power, and plus he's dead. He doesn't feel anything unless he's in a body, and then when he is in a body, what he's feeling is like intoxicating. And all of it is undercoated by anger, and a lot of times we'll actually see him pull back and be like, I can't believe I almost did that, or I almost did this. And yeah, it's very interesting and very like what I would think of as like demonic possession or something like that. And as someone that's on the fence about whether or not I like demonic possession books, I did really enjoy this because I thought this was a wholly original take in it, because he's not a demon from hell. This was a guy that died and then came back for revenge, or not came back, he didn't go anywhere. He stuck around for revenge, but the more he, I guess, stayed on Earth and the more that he did stuff, the more he became twisted, whether he wanted to be or not. And then it becomes up to his brother and his brother's girlfriend, some other people, to try to put him in the grave for good. And I'm not going to spoil too much of the book, but I did really enjoy that. I thought it was very interesting, just the way it was done. I mean, this was really great writing from beginning to end. Like, this book was hard to put down to stop while you're reading it and to put the bookmark in, just because it's so fast paced and it just doesn't let up. I mean, once Eddie gets going, he really gets going. And even the breakaway scenes we get, which follow Carson and some of the other people around town who are noticing the weird things going on, it feels like an appropriate level of head hopping, which, as someone, I've talked about this, I'm not a huge fan of head hopping, but I did really enjoy getting the story from other points of view, because everyone starts to realize that something very weird is going on in town, especially with the way that Eddie starts to get revenge, and that it causes a lot of the Hellriders who, while everyone in the town knows they're up to no good, they're kind of like the devil so to speak, and a lot of their antics are tolerated because while they're not the brightest, they are smart enough to not directly antagonize or commit crimes against townsfolk. Even the murder of Eddie is seen as something that was their business because, he was a Hellrider. So it wasn't like they killed a civilian walking up and down the street. And so it kind of does seem that the town turns a blind eye a bit. It does come out that, members of the Hellriders are connected to people, and in a small town, that means a lot. So yeah, I enjoyed that a lot. I enjoyed the small town politics. I enjoyed watching Eddie, slowly turn into a monster. And even watching, Carson, who at one point is rooting for his brother, like we all are at the beginning of the book, kind of turn against him because he's like, oh, this is getting really bad. I also just really like motorcycle horror, which I did not realize until reading this book. I've never really read any motorcycle novels. I've seen some motorcycle horror movies, which are all really good. I think one's called Monster Bike that I'm a fan of. Werewolves on Wheels is always a classic. But, I've never tried to read books about, motorcycles mixed with horror before, other than, now I can't think of the name of it. But I'll review it later on this channel, and I'll probably bring it up. It's by the same guy that wrote The Har, which is Haar. So feel free to look that up. I enjoyed that book as well. I think it's called Satan's Burnouts Must Die, but I can't remember who wrote it right now, and I do apologize for that. I'm having a bit of a mind fog. But I enjoyed this, is what I'm getting at. I enjoyed this a lot. I would love to see more motorcycle horror just because it's very pulpy, and I'm all about pulp horror. And like I said, the action just pulls you right in, and it's good revenge. If you want to see a bunch of bad guys meet very gruesome ends, I would definitely say pick this book up. I even enjoyed the kind of coming of age stuff that's happening to Carson. And then when we do see Eddie at his most monstrous, I feel like the author towed a really fine line of basically this book could have been a very extreme horror book, and I'm glad it wasn't. I'm glad that when things could have gotten very bad in this book, and if you read it, you'll know the parts I'm talking about, the author kind of pulled back, and we get to see Eddie's leash kind of snap back when he realizes ooh, maybe that's too far. That being said, it still impacts all the people he possessed, and it ruins a lot of lives or social standing and stuff like that. But it was something that I actually really appreciated, because as someone that does read a lot of horror, I feel like it's scarier as a reader to see where the line is and to see it almost get crossed than for the boundaries to constantly be pushed, if that makes sense. Because I feel like it keeps the tension level up. And, I felt like, especially midway through the book, that the tension was there because we didn't know. As a reader, I didn't know how far Eddie was going to go. Is this the time when he jumps into someone's body that didn't hurt him? And is he going to cross the line? And I enjoyed that a whole lot. And like I said, once I got midway through the book, there was no putting it down, and I just voraciously tore through it. So yeah, I enjoyed this book a lot. I'm definitely going to check out more JG Faherty's books. If you have a chance to pick up Hellrider, I would definitely do it. I'll link it in the show notes below. If you're looking for good motorcycle horror, or even just a book that you're not going to put down, I mean, this book's almost 300 pages. When I tell you I tore through it in 2 days, I tore through it in 2 days. I mean, it was really good. Yeah. If you read it and you liked it, didn't like it, let me know in the comments below. If you know of any other motorcycle-esque horror fiction books I should look at, also let me know in the comments below. And as always, if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.